It's a comedy Christmas with me, Alex Belfield, talking to the big stars of comedy, and a man now for you who is very funny, Jason Manford. How are you?
I'm not too bad, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Good to see you. And just before you go on, the thing I love about comedians, there's no hair, makeup, no showbiz, just turn up, have a bit of Nando's and then go on stage.
That's my life, yeah. I mean, not the stage isn't always part of it, but yeah, no hair, makeup and Nando's is essentially what I do every other day. And then a stage sort of enters every couple of days. You know, I have to do a gig and do bits. But that's the great thing about the job is there's no messing about. You know, sometimes I remember early on people going, well, can I come to the gig? I'll say, you know, I'm your roadie. I'm like, I don't need a roadie. You can do carry me shirt, like, you know.
And there's no real dressing up or anything. They're really here just to hear you, and that's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you do sometimes get some older people like, he's not even tucked his shirt in. You know, you can hear them like talking to each other. But just shirt, jeans, and trainers for me. And then unless you're doing something like when I did like live at the Apollo with Jack D and stuff, I thought BBC One, I better tuck a shirt in, I better wear a belt.
And did you ever consider being one of those comedians like Joe Pasquale that you bring a camel on stage with you and things like that?
I've never thought about doing the old prop comedy, to be honest. It's too much hard work. I remember early on I used to have a joke about my watch, and even that was hard work, like just making sure I remembered my watch every time I did a gig. And I mean, if you can't be bothered to remember your watch, then obviously prop comedy's not for you. Like,
you've been doing this a long time and you're very good at it. Then TV comes along and it sends you into a different stratosphere of comedy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it does, really. I mean, this is sort of my 10th year doing stand-up. Man and boy. And I started when I was 11. And I mean, it definitely gives you that edge, you know. It sort of gives you a reason for people to come and see you because they've seen you on the telly do a little bit. Think, oh, he's all right, I'll go and see him live, you know. And it builds up a little bit of a profile for you. And also, people already sort of like you, you know, because they've seen you on telly and they go, oh, well, I like that 5 minutes I saw. Let's go and watch him for an hour and a half, you know, and hope they still like you at the end.
And how does it work with the TV shows? Because you've kind of got the intellectuals on Mock the Week and then you're lot on 8 out of 10 Cats.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's one way of putting it. I would say the intellectuals are on Have I Got News for You?
Right.
And they're sort of and the QI situation when it comes to panel shows. And then as you sort of seep through, you get to our level on 8 out of 10 Cats, and you know, you sort of Mock the Week. I think we're sort of on an even keel. The difference we have, I think, is we have celebrities on rather than all comics, which actually often ends up a funnier show because you've got these sort of people who are not necessarily there to offer the gags, but they offer the people who do the gags another avenue, you know. So, I mean, last night we had Kelvin McKenzie, who used to be the editor over at The Sun, and so it just gives you an extra angle, you know, that you can sort of talk about that you'd never be able to if you didn't have him on, you know.
I'm not talking behind anybody's back because I said this to Dara O'Brien, but I can't stand that show. It's so competitive, everybody interrupting each other. It doesn't kind of work for me. Yours is more laid back and everybody seems to be more friendly. Comedians are very competitive sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the Mock the Week thing's come up a couple of times, you know, and for me to do it, you know, and I've always sort of gone, I'm all right, to be honest, because it is like a bear pit, you know, and they're all brilliant, you know, and you've got Frankie Boyle, whose gags are sometimes, I mean, they're the ones that make the edit, you know, that get past the Ofcom regulations. Can you imagine the gags that don't? Your ears would be bleeding, you know. But he's so good, and he's got such a great use of the English language, and Russell Howard's very good as well. In fact, he's on 8 out of 10 Cats in a couple of weeks.
He's just turned 12, hasn't he?
Yes, that's it. He's 12 years old now. He still pulls his pants all the way down for a week. He's only a kid. And so, you know, and I think, like you said with our show, it is a little bit more laid back, and it's less of a bear pit, I think.
I think so, and you kind of get a bit uncomfortable, and it kind of becomes a bit uncomfortable sometimes when everybody's running to the mic, because comedy has to feel like it's just happening. With there, you feel like it's a bit kind of rehearsed. On your show, how much of it do you actually write in advance? Is it like Have I Got News for You, where you know what's coming before you do it?
I mean, I don't want to, you know, show you the strings, but I mean, essentially the news round, you know, the first round, you can prepare to a certain degree because everyone, if you've been watching the news and reading the newspapers, can work out what the top 5 stories are going to be that week, you know what I mean? And not necessarily, I mean, last night I think we had 8 guesses and 5 of them were the top 5, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's never, touch wood, but it's never got to a stage where nobody's getting the last story and everyone's going, what? I don't know what it is. Pretty much, you know, if it got to that stage, then, you know, that day, because you have a little chat with the producers and stuff and go, I'm thinking of doing jokes on these stories, and they go, good, do those jokes. And you go, all right. It's all very cagey. But you know, and the rest of it, and often those gags you prepare, you do them on the night, and they get laugh and stuff. But it's the banter and the messing about that actually makes the final edit. So the bit you see is often a product of preparing jokes, but they're not necessarily the prepared jokes. And as a comic, you wouldn't be able to get to that stage of having the confidence to do all that banter without knowing that you've done a little bit of preparation, you've had the knowledge, you know, and done a bit of research.
It always fascinates me the difference between the bravery of the comedian on those shows or the reality TV stars that come on to try and make their name. They're never going to win. It's a bit like a DJ on a phone-in. If you've got the fader, you're going to have the last word. Yeah,
I mean, there is that. The reality stars are phenomenal. I mean, the confidence, you know, I mean, you'll sort of, they'll be on the show, and the stuff they come out with, you know, the confidence from the ego on them is different to. I mean, we had Christopher Biggins on a show, who's, you know, whatever you think Christopher Biggins, but he has been in show business for 40, 50 years, you know, and he's done work the music halls, and he's you know, he was in Porridge and in all these great sitcoms, and he's on our show. And then you meet Charlie from Big Brother, and she thinks she's bigger than, you know, David Walliams or you know, or Vic Reeves, or even, you know.
We had Biggins on the show on Monday, actually. Did you know he was the master baker in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat video?
He would be a master baker in anything, that man.
And how is it for you going into that domain where you're meeting big stars? Obviously, people like Jimmy Carr present, and then you're meeting all these showbiz types. Do you find that normal?
No, it's never normal. It's weird when they go... Like, I met Freddie Starr a few weeks ago. We were doing some radio interviews and stuff around the country at BBC in London, so, you know, down the line sort of thing, and he was doing some, and so we kept crossing paths in the sort of waiting room, and I said to him, I said, oh, but, you know, big fan, like, and he said, oh, big fan of you. I went, get out, like, this is weird. And I said, oh, and I started talking to him about, you know, I said, oh, what's Tommy Cooper like, you know, and he started telling me these stories about Tommy Cooper, and what's Les Dawson like, you know, telling me these great stories about Les Dawson, 20 minutes telling me these brilliant anecdotes. And there was a bit of a lull, like, and he said, oh, what's your show last week? I said, oh yeah. He said, what's Charlie from Big Brother like? So I can't believe that's what I've got to compete with, a story about Tommy Cooper, an anecdote about Charlie from Big Brother.
And the other great thing about you, and I hope you take this as a compliment, you've kind of got that old style about you, that you're warm and friendly. You're not trying to be a smart ass all the time.
No.
And so many of them seem to be obsessed with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to try and hit the biggest demographic I can. You know, even tonight, in the audience, though, I know there's 13-year-olds in there, I know there's 80-year-olds in there, you know, and I try and at some point make them all laugh, you know, and maybe at different times, but certainly all of them laughing. And I'm not too bothered about being edgy, or, you know, or sort of people coming away thinking, oh, he was very, very controversial, you know. I'm not really into it, and I think you need people like me to be in the centre so you can have the edge, you know, otherwise, you know, it's sort of lopsided and the status quo's all a bit askew. And I've always had a big respect for all those old, you know, the old style comics, and they're the ones that I used to listen to when I was a kid in my room, and, you know, and so I suppose, you know, it sort of seeps in a little bit.
And I think Peter Kay started the revolution in the North where northern comedians could be funny in the South.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, there's always been funny northern comedians, you know, but Peter sort of made it quite accessible for TV producers to put it on the telly. You know, there was no fear of going, oh, he's not from London, what are we going to do? Or he's not, you know, he doesn't live here. He don't even live here. What's going on? We have to pay for an hotel. And you know, so yeah, definitely started that. He definitely started that trend. But I mean, even people like you know, Steve Coogan and Caroline Aherne and Victoria Wood, and, you know, people like that, you know, really kicked a lot of that off, and it does help now. You know, it's quite easy to people can go, okay, I can pigeonhole you now, and then I can give you some work.
I didn't expect you to comment on this, but I saw Steve Coogan last Wednesday on tour and did the entire show off cue cards.
Did he really? Well, I suppose he's at the beginning of it, isn't he? I think it's hard. I think you've got to be subtle if you're going to use notes. I mean, I know a few comics who use notes, and I use them at the beginning of a tour, but never... I mean, not in my hand.
Well, I'm talking handheld, reading every word with when he doesn't know what he's going to say next.
Oh no, I sort of bullet point a list of subjects, and
that's 35 quid I'm never going to see again, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I'm going to see him in November, so at least he'll learn it by then.
Yeah,
so.
Well, you're in time for the DVD. Don't you worry about that. And as for your future, I mean, you just did the radio show for the last 18 months. That's not glamorous, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, is it?
No, that's soon that soon wears thin. I mean, it was great fun and really nice, really interactive show. People texting in and ringing in and stuff like that. And it was good laugh being sort of part of people's lives every morning, you know, on the way to work or getting the breakfast ready for the kids or whatnot. But after a while, you know, especially burning the candle at both ends, because I'd film 8 out of 10 Cats on a Thursday. So that was last year. We're on a Wednesday this year. But last year we did it on a Thursday. So I'd do the show Thursday morning. Then I'd go down to London Thursday afternoon, record Cats in the 8 out of 10 Cats in the evening, and then get driven back to Manchester for early hours Friday morning to be up again at R4. And in the end, I just thought, you know, I just got married, and you know, I thought, well, I'm never going to get any kids here at this rate, so I'm going to have to knock it on the head. Someone's going to get knocked on the head, and it's not going to be that, so it's going to be the radio.
And as for you personally, I don't wish to be personal about it, but you are delicious, and the ladies do seem to love you. You are a sex symbol.
It's just, you know, I'll be honest with you, it's a curse. I mean, you know, on the radio, you can't see what he's seeing. You know what I mean? You're at home now.
No, I'm not saying I think you're a sex symbol. I'm saying they think you're a sex symbol.
Nah, you're saying that, but you mean yourself. I understand. It happens all the time. No, luckily I'm not, and also it's quite nice and quite homely, I think. So people sort of go, he's a nice lad. And people often sort of say to me, oh, like laughing women into bed. Like, I go, I wish that would have been the case. I wish that was never happened. I remember Billy Connolly doing a bit years ago, people saying it to him, oh, laughing girls into bed. He's like, no, that, you know, like, oh, he's you know, telling loads of jokes, and then right now you're laughing, get your knickers off. Like, that wouldn't, it just doesn't happen like that. And in the same way, it doesn't stop you getting bullied at school. That's the other sort of thing that they always say about comics. Oh, did you start telling jokes to stop getting bullied at school? You're like, can you remember school? Can you imagine getting beaten up by two guys and going, lads, I'll stop you there, two nuns in a bath? Just doesn't happen, does it?
And is it tiring being funny all the time and being expected to be funny?
Well, luckily I'm not funny all the time. I mean, I try and concentrate it on stage, and even that's not 100%, you know. I would say when I get in the car, I stick a bit of Leonard Cohen on and start trying to depress myself back down to a normal person's level. But no, I mean, certainly on 8 out of 10 Cats, you know, it's never 100%, because, you know, you're saying things off the top of your head, you're saying things that you might have prepared that day, but that you've never said out loud before. So often that falls on deaf ears, and people stare at you till you cry, you know, and you just sort of got to dust yourself off and crack on. And I think it'd be annoying, to be honest, if you were just non-stop, you know, gagging all the time. Like, people, you'd lose your friends pretty quick, and you'd be that annoying bloke in an office with a wacky tie, wouldn't you? You know?
And as for touring itself, is there any glamour in it whatsoever? I mean, we're here today backstage. You're about to go on in a few minutes from now. It's not exactly paradise, is it? Well,
this is my the working man's room. This is the one that I like pretend. This is the working class room. My real dressing room's next door, where the dancing girls are, and you know, and the drink and all that. But no, I don't really, because I don't drink any alcohol, and I don't do any drugs. I don't just smoke, really. I don't, you know, just sort of just turn up, and I've got a bottle of water, you know, and that's all that's on my rider. A bottle of water and a 99 board. That's on my rider.
And no drugs?
None at all. I got some paracetamol when I was in Norwich.
But not on prescription. Listen, great to talk to you. Jason Manford is the big star of comedy right now. You're on everything and everywhere, and touring through next year as well? Right through till the 8th of March, yeah. So if you go on my website, jasonmanford.com, all the dates are on there, and I'm always updating that bad boy. So yeah, come and have a look. And that'll be £30,000 for that little advert there. Bargain. Is it not just inclusive of my TV licence fee? Is it not? No, absolutely not. Jason Manford, thanks for talking to us. Cheers, mate.